evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Southfield City Council, June 24th at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Council President. Council President Mandelbaum.
Present.
Council Pro Tem Banks.
Present.
Councilman Brightwell. Here. Councilman Cruz. Absent. Councilwoman Haynes. Present. Councilman Hicks.
Here.
Councilwoman Hogue.
Here.
Council President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Can everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right, this building was without air. That's right.
All right. Before we get to the formal part of our agenda, I'd like to ask our Director of Public Works to come up and talk about some of the storm damage updates that happened last week. Mr. Ryan?
Whatever you need.
As you know, the city suffered significant storm damage. We're not quite sure at this point if we did have.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Sorry. The city on the night of June 20th suffered significant storm damage. We had, as measured within the first half hour, 100-year storm rain, and we had some sort of wind event that knocked down close to 400 trees, uprooted many. In talking with my folks, they say they've not seen it this bad in their history. For those who want to know the path, it essentially went down. It entered the city at approximately 11 and Inkster, went down, took out a lot of trees on Civic Center Drive, seems to have then kind of jumped, and then just on section 11 and 12, and also Lathrop Village, took out almost all the trees. Crews have been out on almost a 24-hour basis since June 20th. We have spent, as of Sunday, close to $60,000, and $11,000 worth, $12,000 worth of overtime. We will be running crews probably for the next 3-4 weeks to pick up the debris. We have, or will be making a request to Oakland County Emergency Management for a mutual aid agreement to help us get more machines, more assistance and people to pick up the debris. We do ask that citizens bring their debris to the curb, not over the curb. We've had some who have moved their branches into the roadway, which makes it difficult for crews to chip or pick up, and it makes it almost impossible for people to drive. We did have some flooding. A lot of the flooding we had was because the leaves were covering the inlets. So if you have a situation where your road is covered with water, please do not take the inlet covers off. Please, if possible, just rake it as you would if it was a snow-covered way. For the most part, the citizens have been fantastic. All of our lift stations were able to maintain, though they were babysat for 24 hours. I can tell you how bad it was that even the fire department lost their backup generator. So power now, my understanding, Mr. Manager, is all power has been restored, or Mr. Administrator, and we are still forever vigilant. And we thank everybody for their concern. Also, I wanted to bring up There has been some concerns regarding the termination of the contract with GFL and their switch over on Friday to Priority Waste. So some of you may have been experiencing bad service or no service at all. That's expected to end starting next week. So there is no plan at this time to do a community-wide garbage collection because we're using most of the space we would use for garbage collection for the branches. So that's all I have for you folks.
Mr. Mayor?
Regarding the GFL, this is their last week. I would urge all residents to hold recycling and yard waste. And the reason being is that so many of their workers have walked off the job or are taking leave that was due them and are not at work, so they've been running a skeleton crew, and consequently, household garbage and recycling and yard waste have all gone in the same truck. This is counter to what we contracted. And actually, it's illegal as far as yard waste going into a landfill. So we would ask that you hold your recycling bins for next week, as well as any yard waste. And I know that with the storm, that's a difficult request, but the truth is, there was, as I drive around the city, I see yard waste that was never picked up last week, and this has been the situation for the last 2 weeks. We are looking forward to Priority Waste coming on board on July 1st, Monday, July 1st.
One of the good things about Priority Waste as opposed to GFL is, number one, Priority Waste is a more modern company. Number two is their cameras are encased in their trucks are encased in cameras. So they have, when they pull up to a stop, video evidence of what was at the stop. So if you have a dispute, you can say, look back, I live at blankety blanket street, and they can look and say, sorry, we missed your material. Or on the negative side, if you put something in that shouldn't have been recycled, they can also tell you why it was left. So the good thing is they were a bidder. Last time we bid out, the GFL won, and they were significantly higher than GFL. But since they bought out GFL, they are committed to the price that GFL quoted. So we're getting a higher quality company for a lower cost. So.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to ask our building director, Mr. Chuck Woodward, to also address the council and the audience as well.
Good evening, Council. The Building Department, along with the assistance of Code Enforcement, has toured the areas affected by the storm in which the damage caused by that storm varied greatly. However, we did see quite a bit of an extensive amount of damage over on the east side. In order to assist those homeowners already affected by the recent storms, the Building Department asked City Council for a motion to waive building permit fees to those directly affected by the damage to their homes and the recent storms. Those building permit fees are only building permit fees and only related to homeowners.
And now, is this only for storm damage for homeowners?
Only for the storm damage, yes.
Okay, so, council, we would ask for a motion that would allow the building department to waive building permit fees only for residential homeowners who suffered storm damage and need to repair their homes. This does not mean that, this means that they still have to have an application fee, they still have to provide building plans and go through inspections and pay the inspection fees, but we will waive the building permit fees.
Support.
Any further questions or discussion? So we have a motion by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to approve the waiver of building permit fees for homes that were, for residential homes that were, residential customers or residential homeowners that were impacted by the storm damage. Is there a time frame on this, or is it until time runs out, until there's no more permits?
The building department asks for a period of 30 days so that they can assess the damage and/or have insurance companies respond.
Is 30 days enough, or do we need 60 days?
I'd like to
90?
keep it limited to 30 with the option, if we could.
Councilman Hicks?
So, through the chair, I would propose 90, because from people that I know who've been impacted throughout the metro area, the adjusters are hard to get out to do the assessment. So 30 days may be tight.
Very well, I can agree with that.
So
90 days is what I would propose.
90 days?
Yeah, I mean,
All right. So,
Also, you have insurance claims that
right.
can take a long time.
Okay, so the motion, do we need to amend the motion to add a time frame?
Let me just add it.
Yes.
I respectfully amend to account for the 90-day time duration.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a motion to amend the motion to add in a 90-day window effective today through 90 days. So made by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's for the amendment, and then for the motion, again, the motion was made by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to waive all building permit fees related to storm damage for residential homeowners, and for a period of 90 days starting today. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we will make sure to get that information out on cable as well as through community relations on the website and however else we can alert people.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much. All right, we will now move into our communication portion of the agenda. The Southfield City Council has established the following rules of procedure for all speakers. No speaker may make personal or impertinent attacks upon any officer, employee, or city council member or other elected official that is unrelated to the manner in which the officer, employee, or city council member or other elected official performs his or her duties. No person shall use abusive or threatening language towards any individual when addressing the city council. Any person who violates this section shall be directed by the presiding officer to be orderly and silent. If a person addressing the council refuses to become silent when so directed, such person may be deemed by the presiding officer to have committed a breach of the peace by disrupting and impeding the orderly conduct of the public meeting of the city council, and may be ordered by the presiding officer to leave the meeting. If the person refuses to leave as directed, the presiding officer may direct any law enforcement officer who is present to escort the violator from the meeting. The council may not provide responses to public comments during the meeting. If you have provided your contact information when you signed up for public communications, the city will provide a more formal response to you in the near future. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and I'd like to remind everyone in the audience to please silence your cell phones out of respect for those speaking as well as our city council meeting. Our first speaker is Fred Pinkston.
Thank you, Council. In a recent election, Southfield joined with some of our neighboring communities in passing a effort to humanely curtail the deer population. I've had recent deer sightings in my yard, and by the way, Frederick Pinkston, 27616 Aberdeen, Southfield, Michigan, 48076. Recent sightings in my yard. Also, recently visiting with friends in Farmington, which I believe was one of the neighboring communities, and they told me about there was 3 deers in their backyard the night before we went and visited them. So it's still out there. In 2022, traveling westbound on 12 Mile Road, in between Evergreen and Telegraph, I actually hit a deer. And it wasn't dark yet. It was like dusk, but it was still light outside. So I hit a deer, and fortunately, it only cracked my windshield and bent the hood. So not minimal damage, but the car wasn't totaled. And also, my wife and my 2 sons work at Royal Oak Beaumont. My one son works in patient transport, and he was transporting a young lady. The deer came through the windshield on her, and she suffered some pretty significant facial injuries. I know a lot of people like to think they're cute and they to look at and all that, and they are, but they can cause a lot of damage. So with that, I'd just like to keep this issue on the council's radar. I'd like to thank you for letting me come and state this. I know we got a lot of stuff going on, but it's also, and as an aside, we saw an animal walking down the street, and it was in the morning, and me and the neighbor who lives right across the street from me, it looked like a dog, but it was big, and it wasn't a dog, and we were both looking at it, and it was a coyote. And I started asking some of the guys at work who hunt and all that, and they said, yeah, the coyote followed the deer. So once we have these animals all around here, other animals kind of follow them and join in, so it's something to pay attention to. And thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeffrey Edwards.
Hi there. Good evening, Council. Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Edwards. I live at 17560 Stratford Drive. I'm coming forward today. I received a notice for a violation for having a commercial vehicle parked in my front yard. And I guess what I'm asking for is some consideration in regards to that. First of all, I lived in Southfield for about 2.5 years. I'm a very proud, happy resident. I do a lot of, I own an ice cream truck. I do a lot of servicing, like I was at the Juneteenth event. I'm going to be at the concert series. I do some elementary schools locally. And I guess the problem is you have to have it in the backyard. Well, no one in my general neighborhood, south of 10 Mile off of Southfield Road, between Lathrop there, that's where it's cut off, really has backyards because of driveways or garages because of the water table. And so, I have a utility pole on one side, and then if I were to try to put something in the backyard, it'd be a big ordeal with putting pavement down or encroaching on the neighbor's property. So I guess I just was asking for some consideration to see if, if that could be somehow modified or changed to just a case-by-case basis based on just circumstances, because I am a resident and I am servicing in the community. I don't think I should get a pass or anything like that, but I'm not just someone that's parking a storage thing as storage. I'm actually in the community, out in the community doing things, try to better the community, and I take a lot of pride in that. So.
Okay. We will have someone get back to you.
I'm sorry?
Well, we'll have someone from code get back to you regarding your
Okay.
letter.
I guess I was asking for just maybe, I don't know how old the ordinance is or whatever, if it it can be modified for special circumstances, or maybe even a special permit instituted for local residents that do business in the community, that live, in the city. Again, that's what I want to say.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this issue seems to keep coming up. Is this something that's on legislative's radar to look at that ordinance to see if there's any?
Yeah, it is. I thought neighborhood services,
We did look at it, and we found that our ordinance was in line with other communities alike. So we saw no need to make any adjustments, but we can certainly look at it again.
I would ask that we maybe consider to see if there are any other concessions that are given in other municipalities that we should maybe consider. Because I think Mr. Edwards, he said he has an ice cream truck, so it doesn't sound stationary.
right, and that's why, so the ordinance says they consider it outside storage generally, which means it doesn't move within 72 hours. So that's why every situation is different. If you have a commercial vehicle that is moving every day because you use it for work, you're allowed one in your driveway as long as it's moving. That's why it's situational.
Yeah.
And that's why we'll reach out to the code enforcement officer to give Mr. Edwards a call to discuss it. But the other issue that we had is the resident parked their trailer in their driveway over the winter.
Okay.
It wasn't a problem as a food truck during the spring, summer, fall, because it was being used every day.
Right.
It's in the winter when it was just parked.
Okay.
And we'll do one more look, but I think this is like the second time we may have looked at it again, but we'll give it one more look over.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Absolutely.
Right, and it always depends on that's why we always encourage everyone to talk with the code officers once you receive the letter, because every situation is not always black and white, and there's always different circumstances, so.
Just one more point. So is he clear on what he's doing next? Because I think, aren't they dated? Those respond within a certain?
It's a first letter, but we'll have code enforcement reach out tomorrow as well to him. I have his information.
And I'd like to suggest also, as well as talk with your neighbors, because a lot of times the complaint starts there.
They're 100% supportive.
They are?
4 or 5 longtime residents. They actually really enjoy it. Like their grandkids, I give them ice cream, and I don't believe it's the neighbors.
Okay, well, code enforcement will look into it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Our next speaker is Stacy Jackson.
We did look at it.
Good evening, Stacy Jackson, Southfield resident. I did have a number of things planned to discuss, but I would like to echo the sentiments of the resident pertaining to the deer. My community is heavily populated with deer as well as coyote. In fact, within the past 30 days, I've had about 4 neighbors reach out to me in regards to the coyote coming into their yard and taking their small dogs out into the woods. So something really should be done and looked into for that. Secondly, I'd like to comment about our community. I'd like to know what the city is doing in regards to Airbnbs taking over our city. We happen to have 2 large ones in my community, of which there are consistent calls to the police department who always show to help. I'm concerned that with the noise and now at this point, the destruction of private property of the surrounding neighbors, I am getting consistent and increased calls from my senior communities in fear because of the loud noise and the behaviors of the folks in the Airbnbs. We currently have 2. One sits on Rougewood, the other sits on Rougemont, and there is definitely a documented history with the police department from our community reaching out. I would like for the City Council to look into this to do more to protect our residents and enforce the noise ordinance that we have. Next, I'd like to ask, in 2016, when the city rolled out or reintroduced Ordinance 1571, We met at Levy Middle School, and there was a huge meeting there. The city pledged that it would do its due diligence in looking to grants to help buffer the cost of residents connecting to the city sewer line. From that day to present, our community has not heard any feedback from the city relative to grant funding to help support these. Therefore, going forward, despite my coming here every Monday or every other Monday to express that, what I'll prefer to do is put something in documented form. So tomorrow I'll email the council and our elected officials a more formal letter outlining the information, also outlining case law happening in Chesterfield where the city's proposed support as far as financing that goes into the residents' water bill, how that is now illegal as it hinders or violates Michigan's Heatley Act, an amendment. Next, I'd like to also, in that letter that I send tomorrow, I'd like the city to let me know what they're planning to do relative to the implication of various city officials being implicated in predatory property tax foreclosure. I'm hoping that with something more official and formal that I'll get a more official and formal response. Thank you.
The city does have an ordinance for Airbnbs, and that is done through the building department. If you reach out to them, they can help you out.
Do we have the addresses for these? They need to be part of our rental ordinance. They need to be, whether they're short-term rental or long-term, they need to be registered with the city?
Our next speaker is Keith Harris.
Hello today, my name is Keith Harris. Today I want to talk about some of the violence that's going on in Oakland County. We had Oxford, now we've had Rochester Hills. We also had the incident at Levy Middle School. I mean, we have to take this serious in Southfield. I'm glad the police chief is here because we can't sit back and take it lightly that we won't be next. This is serious. Mental illness is serious. You know, I've came before this council, most of you anyway, before, about a candidate, Dr. Wendy Webster Jackson. And long before she acted out, I warned you guys. I warned you that they were going to be violent, 70 police runs. I warned you that they were going to do stupid things, arson job on their vehicle, 4 houses up the street. And then after all that, then the attack at Levy Middle School, and she got off, but it was due to a small technicality of our schools not being updated with proper security cameras. Our children are valuable. The people who go to these schools for these voting polls are valuable. Now, what hurts my feelings more than anything, when I have to come here and expose my own family. This woman has been married into my family for about 25 years. And in 25 years, she's been nothing but trouble. Now, I'm not going to leave out my nephew because he's a drunk too. Professional, but he's been nothing but trouble. And I tell my nephew this, you are suffering mentally. Now, I'm going to tell the mayor, we have a problem in our community again with our aftercare homes. One of our neighbors, if you see the video, which I'm going to make sure Stacy send it to you, you can see the guy on the video shaking the door to try to get into the house. You see the guy trying to lift up the window to get into the house. You hear the homeowner screaming for her life in this video. We have to do something. And then when the police came, all this guy talked about was murders. He can't go back to the aftercare homes because there's bodies in the basement. Things of this nonsense. We cannot take mental health lightly. And I don't care if a person is a professional. I've talked to professional healthcare providers. We have an overwhelming amount of undiagnosed and untreated professional people in our community. So we have to do our due diligence, like Karen McDonald said, and get her book, which we need to ask Lenny Taylor for,
Your time is up.
to get the book on safety from the county.
Our next speaker is Garland McWilliams.
Good afternoon, Council. Good afternoon. You know, I've been here before in regards to our roads and everything, and I'm pleased to say I was informed as I'm coming in here that some work on Pierce was going to be done, you know, within a month to at least help, you know, get it kind of halfway squared away. So, you know, I thank you. You know, I appreciate that. And today I got in the mail here from the Road Commission, Oakland County Road Commission. I guess they're supposed to be doing some work on 10 Mile between Greenfield and Evergreen. And that's near my area, and, you know, that's applauded, and hopefully it'll spill over more into our neighborhoods, at least bring attention to some of the areas that are really in dire need of repair. So, that being said, my next item, I'm kind of concerned about. The last meeting I came to, it was the issue about speed bumps being installed in certain areas. I understand speed bumps, and I'm not a big fan of them, but I understand the reason why some people would want them. And it was said that if they're installed and people didn't want them, they'd have to pay to have them removed. And to me, that's not fair. I'd rather see more law enforcement. I know we're a little bit short on officers and everything. In fact, I had a chance to speak to one officer that was sitting up on Mount Vernon with his, you know, radar gun and everything. And he was saying he was the only one that's doing any enforcement on traffic. And, you know, I'd rather see more officers out there every once in a while and enforce the speeds, and you get revenue from speeders. You know, those tickets aren't cheap. Instead of putting speed bumps out, I'd rather get some revenue from speeders, and that slows them down right there. They'll say, well, hey, go through this area, don't speed, because you got cops up there. So that's about all I got to say about that. And just trying to help out as a citizen of Southfield. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Holly Carroll. Are you speaking on a planning item? Yeah. Okay, we will wait for that. Our next and last speaker is Greg Keeler.
Greg Keeler, good evening and thank you. I want to speak today about House Bill 5430 of 24, Michigan. Individual income tax credit for historic preservation. At Berg Road, there's a historic park. There's 6 buildings there. I didn't hear any money being given to Berg Road. You have buildings over there that are falling down, coming apart, that need to be painted, that haven't been painted probably in 30 or 40 years. I'm trying to figure out, how did SRI get money, but our park didn't get money with 6 buildings that are in need of damage? I sent to our clerk pictures of the gazebo, which we're going to have concerts at this summer. The gazebo, if you look at it, the sidewalk around it is falling apart. The structure itself is falling apart as well. You can see where the wood is separating and everything else. It is a trip and or fall hazard. So that puts us into a liability situation because of it. So once again, I don't understand why the people who are on SRI, that are city employees, got it for their rental units, but not repairing what we have here. That makes no sense to me. That our historic buildings should not be going to waste. We have concerts coming up. I would implore you to go down there and take a look at it, everybody, and think about, do you have your concerts down here as opposed there because of the safety issues and the liability for the city? One of the questions was asked last week, that the residents are supposed to be at the top of the chart, of the organizational chart. And I'm gonna say no. SNR is at the top of the chart. Otherwise, we'd have got money. Otherwise, a 10-year plan that they had for building the apartments, we'd have had a plan for a swimming pool. We'd have had a plan for a senior center. We'd have had a plan for getting a health and wellness center grant. But we didn't have anything for the residents. But we had John Grace, we had Washington Heights, we had Wells Springs, and we had senior apartments, all for SNR. So who is really at the top of the chart? And who are we really looking out for? And are we looking out for the city and thinking of the best for the city? Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to our presentations. We have one presentation this evening, and I will turn it over to our mayor.
Good evening, council.
We have a grant writer, but not that that's
I have some very good news. With me is the chair of the Public Art Commission. You all know Dolores Flagg. And we have a delegation from the Pierians. Pierians. Forgive my mispronunciation. It's always great to be people outside the city, although we have some Southfield residents here. Although we have some, a couple of Southfield residents here, we are been noticed. All of our public artworks and the lobby gallery shows, and so the Detroit chapter of the Pierians, am I saying it right now? Finally, forgive me, wants to make a presentation this evening to council in recognition of the work that has been done pretty much over the last decade in putting a more presence of public art in the city of Southfield, as well as our quarterly showcases of local artists. So, Ms. Flagg, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. First and foremost, greetings, council members. This organization has been around and has an impact. And the fact that we are a recipient of the organization's generosity and philanthropic gesture, the mayor and I, we were thrilled to hear the good news that we were one of the recipients. So when we are a recipient, the city is a recipient, because whenever someone brings good news, good things to our city, that's a plus. I realize we have a lot of things going on, but this is one good thing that we can all celebrate. I would like to introduce the president of the Pierians Detroit chapter, Paulette Boggs. And she will give a little briefing about the organization itself, but more importantly, the presentation. Paulette Boggs.
Good evening, and thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to say that we see you, we value you, we support you. I'm a longtime resident of Southfield, and it makes me very proud to be able to be a part of the organization that has recognized what's going on and the value of public artwork within our communities. I am the new president-elect of the Detroit chapter, and this evening we are honored to have our national president with us, Ms. Sylvia Turner Hollifield. And I'd like for you to come forward just for 2 seconds here, if you can, to talk about just the history of the organization.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think you can hear me. I'm using my principal playground voice, so I hope you can hear me. Retired, but you always keep it. It is always a pleasure to see any opportunity that we can have to present for the arts in our communities. As I listen to the things about the coyotes and the deer and all of the other things that are annoyances to us, when someone sees art, it changes their whole disposition. And it doesn't matter if it's art for you or art for you, it's just seeing something like that SFLD up there that gets your attention. So as the national president, I am extremely excited that we can be in Southfield to present this award. Arts is life. And if we don't celebrate the arts and see the arts and perform the arts and be the arts that is in each and every one of us, we will lose our humanity. And so as we move forward, we thank you for this opportunity. I thank the members from our chapter. We are an organization that was founded in 1958 in Baltimore, Maryland. We have 16 chapters that go from the East Coast to Hawaii. We're about 400 strong, and just as you see this group here, we have them in 16 chapters. Our purpose is to make a dent and a difference in our community. And our goal is always to make a difference for where we live. So thank you for this opportunity to present this. I hope that we can maybe make this an annual affair. I'm just putting that out there because if you put it out there, it may come true. So thank you to your mayor and Ms. Flagg and the members of the Detroit chapter of the Pierians Incorporated, founded in 1958 in Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you for your time and attention.
For those who are wondering, they are giving us a monetary gift.
I want to thank the chapter. The work that the Friends of South Public Arts does becomes city property. So all of the art that in this contribution ends up in the city's art collection. So the Friends is the nonprofit that helps promote art and finance the city's art collection. We're really pleased to be recognized by the Detroit chapter and very much appreciate the acknowledgement of the work that our Art Commission and the Friends of South Public Arts have done, plus our planning department and the City Center Advisory Board are all part of the effort to provide art and artistic opportunities. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. This is the first time I had to check this big. Community, it is turning.
I'll let you keep
Thank you. Thank you. All right, council, we move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda are items that are considered routine, non-controversial, or have previously been discussed. Does any member of council want a specific item pulled for additional questions? Councilman Brightwell, which item?
I would like to pull item E and J for the explanation.
All right, so item E, I'd like to ask our fire chief. This is the authorization to purchase replacement life packs and automated external defibrillators. Followed by item J, which will have our police chief come up for.
Good evening, council.
And I briefly spoke to the chief about this. In reading through this, I looked at, I was amazed at how revolutionary, how let's say current this particular item is. And primarily when I looked at the fact that they can use the same item for an adult and a pediatric patient. And I couldn't, that's what prompted my question, because, obviously hitting an adult heart and a pediatric heart with the same item, I mean, how does that work, Chief? I just wanted the public to understand that this is some very sophisticated equipment.
Yeah. Well, we normally, equipment we buy, we go on manufacturer recommendation, but industry standard states the difference between an adult and a pediatric, that we had separate pads for our automatic defibrillators, which is our automatic external defibrillators, AEDs. And so before, we had to have two separate pads, and those pads do have a shelf life. Normally, it was about 2 years. Normally, manufacturer's recommendation says 8 years old or younger, you would use the pediatric pads, or under 55 pounds. But now, with the new technology, we're using one pad. One pad can work with adults and pediatrics, and a shelf life now of 4 years. Why I like the units that we're actually buying is because they also work with our cardiac monitors that are on our EMS trucks, our life trucks, which is good, which they actually monitor as you're doing CPR. They have Wi-Fi capabilities that allow us to send the data to the hospital. It's just so much more technology now in these AEDs than even 5 years ago.
Right, okay. And I just wanted to highlight that for the residents, because people move to Southfield for a reason. And one of the reasons is that, the response time of the fire department and those things. But in reading through this, it touched me that this is some very sophisticated and current equipment that is on the market, and Southfield is spending money to reach out to our emergencies as needed. Okay, well, thanks, Chief. I just wanted to.
Yeah. But we take in consideration when we buy these. This is not just a random purchase for us. We look at what the equipment that the hospitals are using. We look at the equipment that we are currently using, and even the equipment that we have input on that we buy for City Hall. That everything is that we won't have to change the equipment we're using. We can just unplug and plug in. We're looking so that everything works together as one overall unit for the city. That's what we've invested in. That's what we're looking at for the future.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions on this item? All right, thank you. I'd like to ask our police chief to come up for item J. And his entourage.
Yeah, thank you. And real quick, before I go to the remarks, I do want to advise council that Meredith, Director Morgan, is retiring July 10th. And we've already identified the next Director of Communications, Matthew Ramos. So I just wanted to put a face to the name, and he's here to kind of watch what happens here as he'll be assuming this role very soon.
Okay. Go ahead.
Chief, and obviously I'm not against this, but just, I have a finance background, so I look at things from a different set of eyes. Why isn't the school board paying for this? Why did we have to pay for this?
So let me just break all this down as far as how this came to be. Is a whole lot of information. And then advise you of some inaccurate information as well. So this all came to be early in 2023. There was a big fight at Southfield A&T High School. As you all know, we have a lot of issues with the school as far as fighting amongst the kids. Very fortunate, as I always say, there's no shooting. But as the one speaker talked about the fact that we never say that things won't happen. But so I start that off because it's very important to have proper communications inside that building. And so this big fight erupts in the school. Officer Walker was the lone school resource officer at that time. He could not transmit out of that building. To say it again, he could not transmit out or receive transmission where he was located in that building near the cafeteria. When you look at the video, he was there by himself for a time period until some of the school's security responded, and ultimately at the time, Southfield police officers came to assist, where he was struggling with some of these kids in this big brawl. And so we knew then what's going on in this school. So we had an assessment done of the school. We contacted Oakland County. As you all know, we just transitioned to new P25 radio system. We asked Oakland County to send in an architect to do an engineered study of the school. And what we determined was the way the school's masonry work and the location, a combination of the two, is the reason why portions of that building, our radios will not work. As a result of that, another study was done, and it was determined that this amplifier system would be the correct mechanism to resolve this issue with communications with our police radios. So the conversation came up, well, how do we come about paying for this? So the first step, we had the city attorney review the documents. We had to send Meredith in to talk to the school to make sure the school board was aware that this piece of equipment needed to go inside of that school, and that this equipment is the property of the city of Southfield, because again, we need it for our police officers to be able to communicate. Property of the city of Southfield, that's the agreement. And if the school was to shut down or something like that, that equipment belongs to us. So then the questions came up relative to the schools having a significant amount of monies, $350 million. So I had a very specific conversation with Dr. Jennifer Martin Green, very specific, actual specific questions. The first conversation we had, me and the city administrator sat on, we kind of discussed what things were happening in the school. But after the Thursday meeting, when we were discussing this item coming before council today, it was brought to our attention about this $350 million that was kind of floating around. So I asked Dr. Green, do you have that amount of money for schools? Because the concern is the schools should help pay for this particular piece of equipment. Dr. Green's response is that no, that $350 million is spread out across all school districts, and Southfield has a portion of that. Those agreements through the Treasury Department, that bond money is what it is, was itemized in fall, summer of 2022, where they listed out a plan through the Treasury Department, the bond money, a plan was put in place, and that money would be, that they were allocated for, would be distributed in 3 payments as they do their school upgrades. And so, according to Dr. Green, there's no money available for that particular funding because it's already spoken for, accounted for, and already approved back in, again, the fall 2022, 2023. So that's kind of where we're at as far as the money that we thought that they may have to assist. But according to Dr. Green, that money does not, is already spoken for, put in the layman's terms.
Well, you know, I'm highly pleased that the behind-the-scenes discussion went on, because that was an obvious question, and obviously an item when you see that amount of money being spent by the Southfield Police Department for the total benefit of the Southfield Public Schools. I mean, I know we get out, it's plus or minus, you know, I know when you guys go in, it doesn't matter who's there, but it, just from watching our public dollars for this, from the city of Southfield, is just something, you gave me a lot of insight with respect to the behind the scenes that go on, and I appreciate Meredith since I've been here. I know she's does a good job. And okay, Chief. Well, I guess if that is what it is, and Mr. Zorn was aware of this, he was involved with those discussions, and that's where things fell out. There's nothing else we can do with it.
Well, as the chief has stated, I was in one of the first conversation with Dr. Green. We did approach the district about cost sharing or picking up the full cost of this. Comes down to it that, as the chief has indicated, this is a piece of equipment that we will own. In the absence of being able to come to an agreement where there was a cost-sharing arrangement, despite the sizable $300-some million bond passed, in the best interest of public safety, we're bringing this item forward so that we will have an adequate form of communication within that school. Southfield High School, like all high schools in our country, are challenged these days, and protecting and keeping that building secure is one of our top priorities. So there really wasn't much budge on the school district's part. As an administrator, we're pretty much taught to stay in our lane and let the school districts do their things. However, I do believe there's a question of transparency and what the school district is doing with those funds, and that there needs to be a greater level of accountability. I think this body has a right to ask, as well as our residents do. And again, we do our best to stay in our lane and be respectful of each other's operations. In this case, we need this piece of equipment to be able to do our job. The timing on this is something we cannot delay. We need to move this forward so it'll be in place beginning of the school year. I can't speak any more candidly about this than I have.
And I agree. Like I mentioned to the fire chief, and when I'm campaigning, I meet people, they move to Southfield for a reason. And there's many reasons they move here. And one of them is public safety. And the fact that we are spending our funds in this manner, I look at it, but the public need to know that we are spending funds from a public safety standpoint that is benefiting the entire community of Southfield. So if something happened here, we'll jolly, I hate to use this, we're jolly on the spot, then, the dollars don't make a difference. But the fact that we are doing this, and we have discussed it in detail, the chief enlightened me. I was amazed. I was pleased with the amount of detail that went into finally coming to this decision with respect to, talking to the school superintendent. So I'm pleased with the discussion. In fact, Mrs. Zorn was involved in it, and it is time sensitive, and all the above, but it is a good item.
And I do want to add that with this process, we did do testing at the other Southfield Public Schools to ensure that this was not a common theme. And that testing revealed that it's just with this particular structure. So we don't anticipate having to come before council for another repeater based on our assessment.
Okay.
Mayor, if you want to add anything?
Well, I think it's important to point out that the need goes beyond the police department. It's anyone that's on that P25 radio system. So if there were some major event where we have people responding from other jurisdictions to assist us, their radios wouldn't work in that building either. So it is necessary. It's an umbrella thing for public safety, for police, fire, and like I said, if we happen to have to call other people in, their radios would have to work too. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Haynes?
So what you're saying in a nutshell is, in addition to the residents paying for this bond, they're going to have to foot the bill for for this, in addition to that? Is that?
So what I'm saying as the police chief is that we need to, so yes, we need the equipment, for me, regardless who pays for it.
Right.
The money is available under our motor pool communications equipment account ending in 1621. So again, yeah, we need the equipment, again, regardless
Yeah,
of
I'm
who pays
just
for it.
wondering, I mean, the money's coming from somewhere,
Right.
so it's coming from the residents, the citizens. Another question is there a way that we could see, I know this may not be a question for you, if the residents and all of us could see how 300, what is it, million?
50 million.
Yeah, it's being used and it's gone. I mean, can we just at least see something? You know, I've had someone ask me about it and said they couldn't get some information. And I think that they do need to see that if there is a way, because I just heard you say something about transparency. That's a problem. And that's a concern, and I think that's a concern from the residents, and I think that we're gonna hear from them later because they paid some money already, and here we are again, and if there's a transparency issue, that's a serious problem. And I think there's some things that we are talking about and that we're not talking about, and not in regards to you, and I don't want to direct it really to you. I just think you're the kind of man in the middle because you're doing your job. But there's some things here that are clear. This is very serious, and it's a cost. It's costing the residents. And if transparency is an issue, I'm not the only one that should be asking this question. I think after this meeting, some people are going to be making some calls about it because that's a problem.
Right. And I'm sure, as I spoke to Dr. Green, she would be able to articulate exactly what you're asking for, how much money the school district of Southfield received out of that $350 million, and then what is being used for. But she did mention she would be more than willing to talk about that document.
Okay, because one of the residents called me and said that they were told that it was evolving, that the whole 300-something money was evolving, and that means if it's evolving, that means it's not all spent. I don't know what that means, but that's a concern. That's a lot of money. And, you know, I think that that's something that we should have the people that are responsible for that, even speaking about that. You know, I don't know if I stand alone in saying that, but that's just what I think needs to happen.
Thank you. Councilman Hicks?
I would say we shouldn't try to attempt to answer questions on behalf of the Southfield Public School District. I would say that, you know, as the city administrator knows, anything that's bond funded, there is a level of transparency and accountability to those tax dollars. When the school sought the bond, there was an analysis done on population, dwindling population, number of buildings that are active or inactive. And there were certain things that the schools were told they can and cannot do, and they had to justify and quantify how money would be utilized if granted that bond money. So every year or every bond payment, there is a trackable work plan that you can go on the Southfield Public Schools website to see what they've done and what they're doing. So there is a level of transparency out there. I can say that a week ago today, some of that bond money was used right around the corner at Adler Elementary, where it is the first school to be renovated utilizing those funds. And there's pictures of before and after that are on the website. So I would say if there's questions, that we should pose that to the Board of Education and not here.
Councilman Brightwell?
Mr. Chair, if it's appropriate, I would like to move that
We're not there yet. We still have other items to discuss.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just add, you know, this is definitely a good conversation. I did have some of these concerns, and when it was explained to me that this was property of the city and mainly to protect and assist our first responders, both police, fire, and anyone else who's on this new system, I felt more comfortable. I do know I did receive several complaints over the weekend about the schools and some of their projects, funding, tax dollars, a whole bunch of things. But with this specific item, I did have reservations at first. But after hearing that this is really more to protect our officers, and that this will belong to the city of Southfield, I think that does justify it, even though I wish the school board would help pay for some of it as well. I did have one question in regard to maintenance of this system. Will it require maintenance because it's not listed in our packet?
It is not something that generally requires maintenance. I would imagine if there was an issue with it, we would have to have someone investigate that, but it is not something that generally requires maintenance. It's like a kind of a network system that just leads to a rooftop antenna. So it's just a series of connections that gives us an outside antenna so that they can get signal out and in.
Okay. Council, any other questions on this item? All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Can I move?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Nope. We had a question on item B, the SEMCOG membership. Councilman Hicks?
Yes, sir, thank you. I agree, as the report is written, that our membership to SEMCOG is a worthwhile investment, that it does benefit our community. Is there a point throughout the year, other than the individual projects, where we highlight to say, this annual membership is X amount of dollars, but the city of Southfield has earned or gained this qualitative or quantitative benefit because of our membership or affiliation with SEMCOG? I'm not sure, maybe this might be the time where we highlight, with us renewing the membership, why we do it and what we gained from it.
You talking about like grant money or things
Grant
like that?
money, well, qualitative and quantitative. So grant money, any projects, any supports, just maybe highlighting what SEMCOG does for the city. I mean, we hear it, I'm learning, but the community may not. And you're talking to transparency.
I can speak to one aspect of SEMCOG collects a tremendous amount of data that they share with their member communities. I find it extremely helpful. Population projections, construction data, all manner of things. So it's extremely helpful. Another thing I would point to immediately is our 9-mile connectivity project with Hazel Park, Ferndale, Oak Park, Southfield, Farmington Hills. They have financed this last year and will be financing work on this again. SEMCOG completed the study along with, in conjunction with Oakland County Parks and Recreation. I think there's tremendous value in being part of SEMCOG. Plus, they do any number of in-services. I'm sure the city administrator can cite other things, but it's very valuable to the city.
And I can also add, I know that I think our current representatives for the council are Councilman Hogue and Councilman Haynes. I know that it's still early in the season, but there's a number of assemblies, as they call them.
And I was going to say, the first assembly is this Thursday, for which I am attending. I think you're going to attend as well. And we can certainly, I think that's a great idea, bring back the investment that we get back on them, as the mayor stated. I was thinking about some of those projects as well as the grant money that we've gotten, but we should certainly highlight those. So as the representative from the council seat, I'll make sure I do that. But I'm attending the first one on this Thursday.
Yeah, and then also throughout the year, as we approve grants, a couple of years ago, we got a $500,000 grant, Safe Routes to School, to install traffic signals and crossings and sidewalks for some schools and neighborhood schools and things like that. So they do come out throughout the year, but we will have our council representatives as well as administration work on it.
And I think that's a good idea, though. Just in future resolutions, let's hit those high-level ones in the resolution.
So, Mr. President, SEMCOG is charged as the Metropolitan Regional Planning Agency. So transportation, our transportation improvement plans all work their way up from the county up into this regional planning. When there is discussion that needs to happen at the federal level, that's one of our conduits They have lobbyists just like we do. They have lobbyists at the federal level, from housing. Currently, we're working on the Regional Economic Development Plan. These plans are done every 5 years. They craft different policies and set in place different funding opportunities. Right now in the economic development arena, we're working on a plan that will bring in more money from the U.S. Economic Development Administration. It's very long-term planning exercises. They've been around since '67. It just sets the stage. So when we, I'm going to go back to 2009 when we were dealing with the economic stimulus. They were our best place for clearinghouse information. When we came through COVID, the information we were getting there. So early in '23, I had every department head, and SEMCOG had all of their department people, which is housing, economic development, transportation, recreation, stormwater. We were all in room 115 going over policies as you're being crafted. Can't say it enough. We still have a second infrastructure and energy bill that never got passed. The energy planning that we're doing, the things that we're doing with sustainability, those are all setting the stage to secure dollars to bring back to Southfield. The 9 Mile Trail has probably been the most successful. Last week, conversation with the Oakland County Parks and Rec Director. Now we're working on the branding of that. Our communities west along 9 Mile, west of 275, have now joined that corridor. So it's building. The funding's coming in place. And this, because our population increased, and that's a big deal. Few cities had a population increase in 2020. Because of our population increase, our contribution for the first time goes over $10,000, and that's why it's in front of council for 23 and 24. And there is a meeting this Thursday down at their headquarters.
Councilman Haynes?
Yes, I wanted to say that earlier we had a conversation with Cheryl Theria. She came in and gave us an introduction to SEMCOG, and when I first got elected, there were some classes that we attended there as well. And in addition to that, we were told that not just the council, but other city officials can use this, their website has access to all this data, which is very, very good. And I've been on the website several times to look up a lot of information, which was very, very helpful. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be at Thursday's General Assembly because I will be in Chicago at a Black elected officials conference. So unfortunately, I won't be attending that. I hate that I won't be, but that's why I won't be attending as well.
Through the chair?
Yes.
I'd just like to echo that the planning department uses the demographic and mapping information from SEMCOG on a regular basis. They provide training that we attend, and they've asked us to be speakers at their sessions. And a lot of the transportation enhancement funds that we've received either come through MDOT by recommendation of SEMCOG, or SEMCOG gets an allotment and allocates those funds. So in addition to the funds that were previously mentioned, we have received over millions of dollars in transportation funding through SEMCOG.
Our city engineer also uses SEMCOG quite a bit, but you're piggybacking off what our planners said. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And also, they were responsible for us enjoying the NFL draft. They were very gracious hosts, and we were able to meet a lot of the staff, and it was a relaxing thing, but it was still important. Something like that, that's important, and that's really good for camaraderie too as well.
Councilman Hogue?
Just before we get off this topic, I just wanted to clarify is that we're in support of SEMCOG. We just wanted to make sure that these amazing things that everyone is saying, that our residents know that we're not just spending money, getting attendance on various organizations, but that it actually brings value to the city. So I just wanted to clarify that we support SEMCOG, but these things that you're saying, we just wanted them out there for the public.
Councilman Brightwell?
Yeah, since I've been on council since 2015, I'm a kind of a data-driven person, and SEMCOG is a wealth of information. I see reports coming out in public pronouncements, publications, and they provided a lot of data for anyone who wants data that gives you data for why you vote for certain things or why certain things are existing. So there's a reason for SIMCOG, and I think it serves our purpose as a very viable city here in the southeast Michigan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on SEMCOG? All right, Councilman Brightwell, I believe you've been itching for a motion.
Yes, I've been jumping a bit over here.
All right.
So, but anyway, I want to move that we approve consent agenda items A through J as presented.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to approve consent agenda item A, an appointment and representative and alternate to the Southeastern Oakland County Water Authority. Item B, SEMCOG membership. Item C, Oakland County, Michigan Works Southfield Flexible Workforce Assistance Expansion under the American Rescue Plan Act. Item D, an authorization to accept the Technical, Managerial, and Financial TMF grant. Item E, authorization to purchase a replacement LifePak CR2 automated external defibrillators from Stryker for our fire department. Item F, receipt of bids for the ceiling removal for the apparatus bay at Fire Station 1. Item G, the adoption of the neighborhood traffic calming program. Item H, the cost increase for the Twickenham Valley Road improvements. Item I, healthcare and benefits consultant and broker of record contract renewal. And item J, the purchase of the P25 7800 megahertz bidirectional amplifier system at Southfield A&T High School for the new County Motorola radio system. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Next, we move into our public hearings and site plans.
Thank you, through the chair. PSLU 24-0010, and we also be presenting on PSP 24-0006. Petitioner Farr Properties located at 28745 Northwestern Highway on the corner of Northwestern and Franklin. Existing zoning is B3 general business. The proposal is to construct an addition to an existing gas station convenience store and add a carry-out restaurant. Hours of operation 6:30 a.m. to midnight. Current zoning is B3. It's consistent with our future land use. This is existing site conditions, some elevation photos of the existing site. There will be more than doubling the existing capacity of their C-store. Here is a floor plan. These are elevation renderings, which also increase the height of the building, more presence on the corner. And with that, is the petitioner present? Again, we did contact.
I think they're coming up.
If you want to make a few comments, add anything to what you're proposing.
Good evening.
If you can give your name and address, please.
Nasser Shukair from NC Designers and Contracting, 3241 South Telegraph, Dearborn, Michigan.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add about your proposal?
I mean, the owner is here, and I'm talking on his behalf, and I just want to say that all we're doing is adding, increasing the size of the building and enhancing the site and getting more business into town and make it look better than what it is now.
Okay.
And there's no proposed alcohol sales at this time?
But carry out.
Carry-out restaurant.
Okay. All right, if you have nothing to add, we'll have a public hearing and see what questions may come up.
Can you just sit up here in case, till after the public hearing?
All right, this is a public hearing for PSLU-0010, special use request to construct an addition to an existing gas station and carry-out restaurant at 28745 Northwestern Highway. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address for the record. Don't all come up at once. All right, seeing no one coming up, the public hearing is closed. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay.
We have in your packet a recommendation for PSLU 24-0010. Again, there's a list of conditions just pointing out that this is subject to approval of PSP 24-0006, as well as hours of operation 6:30 a.m. to midnight.
Mr. Crode, if they ever want to change their hours, they'd have to come back to the city council?
Based on the special land use, yes.
Got it. And that's for the entire property, not just the convenience store, but pumps and everything?
Yeah, are you just open, you're open only 6:30 a.m. to midnight?
Yes.
For the gas station as well? Yes.
Okay. Council, I need a motion if we want to move this forward.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that the special use request by Farrell Properties to construct an addition to an existing gas station, convenience store, and add a carryout restaurant at 28745 Northwestern Highway be approved.
Support. It has been moved by Councilwoman Banks, supported by Councilman Hicks, to approve PSLU 24-0010 as presented with the recommendations from the city planner. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair?
Our next item is the PSP 24-0006 site plan review request.
Yes, Councilman Hicks.
I move that we approve PSP 24-0006, the site plan review requested by Farrell Properties.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Haynes, to approve PSP 24-0006, the site plan review to construct an addition to the existing gas station, convenience store, and add a carryout restaurant at 28745 Northwestern Highway. Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Our next item is special land use site plan review, PSLU 24-0011 and PSP 24-0007. Petitioners Grand 8 LLC, existing property located at 27200 West 8 Mile Road. Existing zoning is B3 General Business. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to reconfigure an existing multi-tenant shopping center to add a Big B Coffee with a drive-through on the west portion of the property. Hours of operation, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the site is currently zoned B3. Regional mixed use is the future land use zone. I believe an existing business is relocating, opening up the end cap. These are existing conditions of the site. This is the west end where the drive-through will be located. And here's the site plan with the traffic circulation on the site. Landscape plan, floor plan, and then east end elevations with brick piers and ornamental fence screening to be consistent with what's been done on 8 Mile. With that, I'd like to ask the petitioner to come up and add any additional comments that you may have.
Good evening. My name is Naji Gasso. I'm the owner. We appreciate your help today on the approval. This is a first Big B on 8 Mile, and I believe a lot of tenants and neighboring, they're excited to see that. It's a nice gourmet coffee, and they're opening a lot of them in the metropolitan area.
Okay. Anything you want to add from what the city planner?
I'm sorry?
Do you have anything to add from what was described earlier?
That should do it.
All right. So if you want to have a seat, we will have a public hearing. This is a public hearing for PSLU 24-0011, special use request by Grand 8 LLC to reconfigure an existing multi-tenant shopping center to add a Big B Coffee with a drive-through at 27200 West 8 Mile Road. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address for the record. Okay. Seeing no one coming up, the public hearing is now closed. Council, do you have any questions? Councilwoman Haynes?
I just wanted to say, that's a good idea. I had, when I was working for the chamber, there was someone wanting to have a Big B Coffee in Southfield, and they were trying, but they couldn't get the location right. So it's good that you all are coming, and thank you. Not a coffee drinker, but can refer people to that. And I think it's an addition to the city, and thank you and welcome.
They're happy to sell you some nice desserts as well.
I thought they used to have one right across the street.
Never agree.
Yeah. So, council, any other comment? Mr. Mayor?
Good evening. I wanted to make sure, so as I'm looking at this, I would enter on the east driveway, go to the back of the building,
That is correct.
and then I would exit onto Seminole Street.
I would exit of Seminole, that's correct.
Yeah. And what about a speaker?
The speakers,
Well, when someone orders, and then the employee responds,
yes, that would be, I believe it looks like, would be to the corner of that, consider northwest corner.
all right, I'm just, a concern we've had in the past is sometimes the speakers are kind of loud and then they disturb. You've got residential to the north of this?
Yes, I believe the residential homes are kind of ways away from there, and we also have additional vacant land. It's also a buffer, and that screening wall is a buffer as well.
Through the chair, the menu board is right here on this corner. So the ordering and menu board's right here.
Oh, they're ordering on the corner,
Yes.
not where they first pull in?
No, so right about 4 cars in is where their menu board and
All right.
ordering is.
Thank
And
you for clarifying
To
that.
your point, I mean, the older menu boards, they were very loud, but now they're more soft and even digitally will tell you what your order is.
All right, thank you.
Councilwoman, you had a question?
No, I didn't move it. But go with you, Mr. Hicks.
Councilman Hicks?
I move that PSLU 24-0011, special use request by Grant 8 LLC to reconfigure an existing multi-tenant shopping center be approved.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to approve PSLU 24-0011, special use request as presented with the recommendations from the city planner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And our next item through the chair is PSP 24-0007, the site plan review request.
I move that, I'm sorry, through the chair?
Yep.
I move that PSP 24-0007, the site plan review, also for Grand 8 LLC, be approved.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to approve PSP 24-0007, the site plan review request by Grand 8 LLC, with the recommendations from the city planner.
Through the chair, I just do want to point out that they have a number of waivers that they will have, this is a condition of your approval, they'll have to get the waivers granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay?
Do you want me to modify, or?
No, it's included in the recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, good luck.
All right. Next is PSP 24-0003, a site plan review request by Contours Company to construct Phase 2 of the McKinley Place RUDD development.
Through the chair, as discussed, the zoning took place in 2021, granting the entire site residential unit development district approval with a master development plan. Phase 1 was the renovation of the existing school building. Phase 2 is the proposed construction of 11 side-by-side condominium units. And so tonight, we're just here, the public hearing has already been held, but tonight is PSP 24-0003. Current zoning is single-family, low-density multifamily with as a future land use. This is a site photo that showed the temporary classroom buildings here on the east side, which have been torn down. Existing conditions. And then the shaded area is phase 2, which is the 11 side-by-side condominium units in a Tudor style. This is the landscape plan. And then here are the building elevations that are being proposed. Floor plan, 2 different types of units, and then unit types 3 and 4 with multiple bedrooms. And then here's the rendering from Washington. At this time, I'd ask the petitioner to come up and the architect, representative from Contour, and add anything that they'd like to the presentation.
If you can give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Council. Anthony Arabor, 40950 Woodward Avenue, Suite 300, on behalf of Contour.
I'm Holly Carroll from Design House Architecture, 3300 Auburn Road, Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, yes, just excited to get underway. Yes. We're seeking approval of RUD Phase 2. So thank you for that. And I'll defer.
Council, do you have any questions on this item, on this project? You have questions?
So forgive me, I'm a new learning council person. So my question was, as we approve the special use and we had discussion with why do we do that for the site plan? We've already had this discussion before.
So this is phase 2. The council approved phase 1, which was the building, even though the property was rezoned and we went through their conceptual master plan. And part of that was, you have phase 1, which is the school building that they're turning into condominiums. We had phase 2, which is the homes, which they said we need, they're gonna come back for approval when they're ready. Okay. Sometimes the plans change, sometimes there's little tweaks, but in general, we always ask for, if you're doing it in phases, we approve phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Okay.
Unless.
And at the time, to your point, sometimes they're just conceptual. We did not have a developer identified and we knew that we were going to build them exactly the way it is. So here we are a few years down the line, and fortunately, the developer is able to build them consistent with the conceptual plan that was approved, with some minor tweaks. There was some minor changes due to storm drainage and utilities, but it's pretty much similar to what was conceptually approved at the time.
Mr. Mayor?
The original plan called for 54 condominiums. Over the objections of the neighborhood, they felt it was too dense. So this reduced it by 14 units, so it's 40 condominiums now. Okay. And that was a change from the original phase 2 to what you're being asked to approve this evening.
Thanks all for clarification.
Fair enough,
Councilman Brightwell?
Obviously, this is just from a site plan standpoint. Just look at, and I know that designs and layouts are not necessary to scale, but would there be an additional greenery? There's a sparsity of greenery in this layout here.
This is the landscape plan that's proposed, so that is what would be.
Excuse me?
This is the landscape plan that is proposed, so that's what would be installed. What's being proposed.
So that is the landscaping, and that would look at the trees and the shrubbery, the way it is there. Is
Yes.
that, there seem to be minimal amount of trees in a shrubbery, because that seems too sparse. I mean, shouldn't there be, I'm not sure, I'm not a landscaper, but I'm just looking at it, it seems like something missing.
Well, if I could, each of the buildings has some foundation plantings in front of their homes. There are larger trees on the site that will be saved and new trees planted. But if you look at the school, there's some common green space in front of the building, and then there's some amenities like a gazebo and a plaza for the residents that's available for the entire condominium. So what we do is when we look at these residential unit development, one is the preservation of the building to reuse, adaptively reuse or restore existing buildings so it doesn't go into a landfill. Second is to create some common area for all the residents to be able to enjoy. And then it's to get increased density. As the mayor had indicated, the density has been reduced because of concerns that were raised by the neighbors, but I think there's an appropriate amount of green space and landscaping for this type of development, especially if you look at the common areas that are available. Another reason that we are in favor of this is that there are amenities, retail stores and restaurants within walking distance. So we take all those into factors when we're looking at these types of plans.
Okay, well, I pretty much rely on you as the subject matter expert in this area. It's just visually, it's saying something was missing, but so when I'm assuming actuality, when it's all said and done, we will be pleased with the trees and shrubbery and the greenery.
Yeah, again, if you look at this rendering, and it's only a rendering,
right.
But if you look at what's typically a single family or 2-unit residence landscaping is, this complies or integrates in with what you would find up and down the street. But it has the common area of the school that the other residents don't have.
Okay.
So it's a balance.
It's just a curiosity question. Just looking at it, it looked too plain. Okay, very good. I'm done. Thank you.
Council, any other questions? Okay. Yes.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilwoman Hoag, supported by Councilwoman Haynes, to approve PSP 24-0003 with the conditions set forth in the informational packet. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Through the chair, before you leave, do you want to just give the council and the residents an update of what your timetable is?
Yes, so we are looking at end of 2025 for the entire site, phase 1 and 2.
To be complete.
To be completed, yes.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Phase 1 and 2 completion, end of 2025.
That's what you said, Lester.
Mr. Mayor?
Before you leave this topic, I wanted to announce that working with the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, this Sunday, June 30th, from 2 to 5 p.m., there'll be an open house at McKinley. June is home ownership month, and the program that they're offering is expanding generational wealth on home ownership. And as these will be owner-occupied units, our local chapter of Delta Sigma Theta and the Torch of Wisdom Foundation are holding this event at McKinley.
Can you give the date
this Sunday, June 30th, from 2 to 5 p.m. I'm working closely with the sorority.
Will this be on the website?
It's on theirs. This is not a
a city thing.
city-sponsored event.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, and then our last public hearing for the evening is PZR 24-0003, a request to rezone 8.6 acres at 28600 Lasser Road from multifamily to R2 single family.
Thank you. Our last item in public hearing is PZR 24-0003, petitioner Southfield Christian School and Highland Park Baptist Church. Again, property located at 28600 Lasser Road, the southeast corner of 12 Mile and Lasser. Existing zoning is RM multiple family, R2 single family. Proposed zoning is R2 single family. And we are only considering the rezoning of the northern part of the parcel at this time. Existing zoning and future land use as described. This is the open green space that is used for occasional athletic sports, but to be in line with future expansion of the school and the church, they'd like to have it rezoned consistent with the single-family designation. Existing site is relatively flat. A few trees have been retained. There also is a 50-foot woodland buffer to the east of the property. They occasionally use it for soccer and pick up sports. And this is the existing site plan. The property is the northern portion of the school site. And with that, I know we have representatives from the school, the architect, and representative that could add anything to the presentation.
If you can give your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Gina Van Tyne. I'm the architect for Highland Park, Southfield Christian, and I'm from Informed Studio. We are in 235 East Main Street in Northville, Michigan. I really don't have anything to add. This is our second appearance before the council, and I think that it's pretty simple. We're just trying to be consistent with the zoning so that we can use the property for athletic fields, practice, that type of thing.
Okay. We will have a public hearing and see what other questions may come up. All right, this is a public hearing for the PZR 24-0003 to request to rezone 8.6 acres at 28600 Lasser from multifamily to single family. As you see the property, each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Council, do you have questions? Councilman Hicks, you had a question?
So, new guy question, getting the enlightenment from the senior council person. And she had posed questions on site plan related to the netting. And I wanted to see if her answer was received related to placement of that netting.
If I could, we're not considering any site plan at this time.
That's why I was asking, just.
Yeah, I mean, it'll either have to come back for site plan approval.
Yeah.
Or it'll be done administratively. The question was asked, I believe, last time was, do we have any other locations? And I identified the 2 golf ranges that do have the netting. But any proposed netting or any athletic facilities would come back at a future time, and council would have an opportunity to weigh in on it. And I know it's their intent to add it, but it'd be pretty speculative at this point because they don't know exactly how they're laid out and what actual facilities. I've reviewed half a dozen different configurations over the years, and so I know that's a continuing evolving situation.
Thank you. Councilman Brightwell?
I'm supportive of this, but I think one question that lingers from last time. Did you, what was the extent of the talking to the neighbors, surveying the neighbors or talking to them?
Yeah, we did meet with the HOA, so I'll
Right.
let Will speak to that.
Okay.
Name and address, please.
I'm the head of school at Southfield Christian at 28650 Losser Road. Yeah, we were asked to speak with the head of the homeowners association and to review the plans with her. I did. I also then sent her an email document describing what the plans were. She reviewed it with the homeowners association and said that they had no issues with it. It actually is a help, I think, to the neighbors because we're going to be taking some of the activity which goes right up against their backyards and bringing it to the corner where there's no real families on 3 of the 4 sides. Okay. And there's also that buffer zone on the east.
So if you could look behind you, this is where some of their athletic facilities are currently, closer to where the residents are. And this is the 50-foot wooded buffer that exists. Plus they have a private drive and then some additional buffering. So any of the active sports that get relocated up here would be further away from the residents. But again, we don't have a specific site plan. That'll have to come back at a future point.
That's it for me.
Okay. Council, any other questions? Councilwoman Banks?
Thank you. I just want to confirm, Mr. Crowe, the site plan will come back before council. It will not be approved administratively?
Well, if it's any major revision, it has to come back for site plan approval.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is I do have a concern about the fence or net or whatever, and I was explaining to Mr. Hicks, or Councilman Hicks, that it's going to come back before council, but you said possibly administratively.
Well,
I'd like to request that it come back before council.
I understand that, but I don't want to rule out if they want to put a bench up or some walking path, that could be possibly done administratively. If they come back with full facilities, sports facilities, that will come back for site plan approval.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? Councilman Brightwell?
Can I introduce?
You can, well, we got to rezone before we introduce the ordinance, but yes.
Well, I want to introduce ordinance
Nope,
numbers.
we have to approve the rezoning first.
Okay, well, I'd like to move that we approve PZR 24-003, the request to rezone 8.68 acres of land at 28600 Losser Road as presented.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilwoman Haynes, to approve PZR 24-0003, the request to rezone 8.6 acres at 28600 Losser Road from multiple family to single family. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, I would like to introduce ordinance number 1788.
It has been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to introduce ordinance number 1788. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Could I ask who is the support on that motion?
For the ordinance, Councilwoman Hoag. Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And again, through the chair to Ms. Banks, because if it's an athletic field, it'll be most likely a special land use and a site plan that would come back to council. But I have approved minor administrative items on the playground and other things. So I just wanted to be clear that there are certain triggers that will require it to come back.
Thank you.
All right, now we are up to the council portion of our meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve travel expense report for Councilwoman Yolanda Haynes for MML Spring Advanced Summit.
It has been moved by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to approve the travel expense for Councilwoman Haynes at the MML Spring Advanced Summit in Mount Pleasant in May. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that we approve the travel expense for Councilman Haynes at the Detroit Regional Chamber.
Hicks.
Sorry.
Don't get me in trouble.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Her husband's real strong.
May 2024. Sorry about that.
It has been moved by Councilwoman Hoag, supported by Councilwoman Haynes, to approve the travel expense for Councilman Hicks for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, Mackinac Island in May. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And Councilwoman Hoag.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Hicks.
So just a question for consideration. Our subcommittees, there are a lot of things that I'm trying to learn and tie together, legislative, finance, all of them. But the way we have our meetings set up, there's limitations on who can attend. If we were to treat them as committee of the whole, I mean, I would be at the meetings not to ask questions at the meeting, but just to kind of learn and listen. Is that something that was ever considered, changing how we handle subcommittee meetings and attendance for council people who want to just learn and listen versus, or have them recorded as an option maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there are minutes that are shared.
Yeah, but sometimes
The
the context of the minutes may not align with the conversation.
So in the past, and I can appreciate that as being a new council person, I was lost on a lot of things, and there's still some subcommittees I've never sat on, just because whoever was president never had me sit on those committees. Just thinking out loud, part of the problem with the committee of a whole, making those subcommittees committee of a whole is you have to then, you're now got to work out a schedule with 7 members, plus administration, plus staff after hours, because if it's going to be a committee of a whole, every council member would get a say, and it's essentially be a council meeting, not a subcommittee meeting.
Yeah, maybe that was a poor choice of words. I'm looking for a recommendation where you can still have your 3 council people tied to that calendar, but the other ones could come in and out as they choose.
We can talk with our city attorney, but
Okay. I mean,
you know,
just a
there
thing to
does,
consider.
because the subcommittees, we do have issues with, we have to be mindful of the Open Meetings Act. We can't have more than 4 council members, or becomes a full council meeting, even if a council member is in the audience, not saying anything. When I was first on council, I tried sitting in on a finance committee meeting. The city attorney at the time, it was not Ms. King, but the city attorney at the time politely told me to leave because she didn't want anyone to think that I was participating. Even if I give a wink or a nod, someone could say, oh, you're, giving approval, and, but we can have a discussion with the city attorney, see if there's anything that we can do outside of providing minutes or just having council members take turns sitting on those committees. And the committees generally change every year or 2.
We'll talk later.
So, Councilman Banks?
And just a suggestion, and I can speak for the Finance Committee meeting, we send out everything that we're discussing. And if more of the committees would do that, and then if there's any questions, feel free to contact the chair and/or any other staff member with reference to that item, because the chair of the committee should be able to answer the questions. I think finance sends out the most information to everyone. Some of the other committees still are not sending out backups or supporting documentation. So if we can get everyone to start doing that, it would be easier to understand and see and learn what's going on. Or even to make a suggestion to the chairperson prior to the meeting. I mean, there were times when there were meetings, I would say to the chairperson, I have a concern because of this, this, this. Can you maybe bring that up? And they would bring it up on behalf and then report back. So you can do that also.
Thank you.
You're
I would agree that your subcommittee does provide great minutes, but sometimes your minutes really reflect decisions. They don't necessarily reflect discussion. So the discussion that led up to the decision or recommendation that's brought before the whole, you know, some of that context is what I'm looking for, is why did this come about, who discussed it, and how did you come to that determination? And that's what I believe is missing from the minutes, because it really captures who was there, what the topics were, what the decisions were, but not the dialogue, the back and forth that went on. And by being in the audience, you can kind of hear some of that.
Right, but remember that any major decision has to come back to this entire body. So at that point, it would also be shared.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thanks. That was it for me, sir.
Councilman Brightwell, did you have a question on the board, on?
Just a comment, really. Since I've been on council, and when I first got on council, it was by a prior attorney, and I think the president at the time embedded on me how much they wanted to follow the Open Meetings Act. Because cities have gotten sued when just 4 people were sitting in a restaurant, and they were sued simply because they said they were in the restaurant. They didn't necessarily, they weren't sure they were discussing city business, but the city got sued anyway. So I think and we can obviously deal with our current attorney and walk it through that, but my point being is that there's some sincere efforts by cities and especially Southfield to follow the Open Meetings Act, to stay away from the courtroom.
We can figure something out, whether it's either enhanced minutes or if you're, which obviously is more time consuming and everything else, but we can, you can always call the chairperson of that committee. And I did speak with the council secretary to make sure we keep reiterating that every committee is sending out agendas, minutes, everything to all council members. Yes, Councilman Hoag? It's still tricky.
Yeah.
But we'll let our city.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I can concur with what Mr. Brightwell said, that there are cases where, council didn't have an intention, but once you have those 4, there's a quorum, and then there's these arguments that can come up. So I can send more information, but it's always best to lean on the cautious side.
Because it's even come up when we've had council people on, can somebody call in and listen? And even that, you just never, we like to make sure we don't get into any trouble legally. But we can discuss maybe some enhanced minutes or some other type of information. Yes? That's a possibility. I don't want to continue this discussion too much because again, the Open Meetings Act is very complicated, which is why we will have our attorney advise us on possible solutions. We do have these meetings are recorded, but they're televised. And don't forget, anything could be requested, so we just have to be mindful of all the legal aspects. But Mr. Zorn, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't remind council committee chairs, as the committees are meeting, there's an approval process that you're to share the agenda as it comes together with the administration, primarily so I can have my staff ready. I mean, that, we need time to prep. And I just want to comment, as Ms. Banks has pointed out, any actions do need to come back to the full council. And then, as Mr. Councilman Brightwell has said, we have standardized a lot of the reporting on the Finance Committee. And when I started here, they only met 3-4 times a year, if that. But we've got it down to a monthly reporting. You've standardized the reporting for the treasurer, for the clerk, and even how we present this. And you'll recall before Mr. Michaels came in, we were tweaking it a little bit. And there's an area that I would probably like to see us work on in this next fiscal year, and that is on revenue forecasting and are we hitting our revenue targets? We do a great job with the expenditures and overtime, and we've put a lot of controls in place that frankly have really helped the administration, and staff is more responsive. So I think we've accomplished quite a bit there. And there are lots of cities that actually have prohibitions against standing committees, but I think Southfield's an example of a community that has made them work very well. If you look at our other committees, they're usually responding to certain things in front of us. Both the legislative and neighborhood services respond to things happening in our neighborhoods or state law or things we need to change. Boards and commissions will be an ever, getting the message out that we need our citizens to be part of our democracy, and that frankly is under threat. I mean, look at what's happening. You've got a threat to immunity, government immunity. I mean, just look at some of the school boards where people are resigning. They're just fed up, and if without immunity, why serve on some of these boards? Put you and your family at risk, and so there are certain things we need to keep at the table and just keep out there. But I think we're an example of a community that makes ad hoc committees and standing committees work. And the last community I was in said, no way. Farmington Hills doesn't have them, and they have committees, but council doesn't have standing committees. So, I think it's something where we're an example of how it's done well.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to hitchhike on what Mr. Zorn has said, I recall, well, I'm gonna just cut to the chase. Southfield has best practice with respect to the Finance Committee. We've shared it with the various communities, and that is best practice. And that whole committee is structured like a corporate entity that when I was getting reports, and that looks just like everything I used to get. And so, but with respect to best practices, and like you said, the committee did not meet that often. When I was the chair of the Veterans Commission, Charette had me make a presentation to the Finance Committee about a parade, and so that was, it was a different time. And I think now it's purely accounting and finance. So, and it's the best practice within our peer group.
So let's be clear. I'm not saying anybody's done anything wrong. I'm saying I'm trying to learn. That's it. Yeah.
It takes more than even 1 year on council.
Yeah.
It takes about 4 years.
But thank you all for the dialogue.
Councilwoman Banks?
I have nothing to add this evening. Thank you.
Councilwoman Haynes?
Yes, I have several things to add. To the families that will have children during the summertime, just want to let them know that last week was the kickoff for the summer reading program at the library, and it's a very good program for children to be involved in, especially when they're out of school. Lots of fun and things going on too there. And the library will be closed on Sundays in the summertime, just to let people know, so you won't drive up and wonder what's going on. And July 1st, the first week in July, the bookshelf will not be having a book sale. It begins on July the 10th this time, and it's from 1 to 7, and it goes all the way to that Saturday. So just check the library's website for the times for the bookshelf. They have gently used books at the library for a very affordable price. And if you are this summer cleaning out your garage or your house, the library does take gently used books for the bookshelf, and there's a tax write-off for those as well. Don't bring anything that you wouldn't want to put your hands on, let's put it like that. And I say that really seriously because we have some dedicated volunteers at the library who sort through those books, and some of those books are not even fit for them to touch. So if you have some gently used books you would like to donate to the library for resale, they would greatly appreciate that. And also, last week we attended the swearing in of the 9 new police officers, which I thought was very, very good. It was a very good ceremony, which we have one of the new officers in the back. And I made the joke, we have Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson in the building because his name is Michael Jackson. I just had to say that, y'all, sorry. But on a serious note, with all that's going on around the world and even in our city, our state rather, it is so important that we have dedicated and committed men and women in law enforcement. And I am very proud that we have the Chief Barron, who will be honored this coming week as well for his service here and his service in the community, period. And it's just so important to have dedicated men and women, and I am appreciative of them and grateful for them because they were out at the Eat to the Beat and different things, and it changes, I don't want to say it changes, but if there's anyone that is doing anything wrong, the presence of police sometimes will deter that, or people may think twice about what they're doing. And I think that that's key, that we just have them even in the audience. And not only that, they were communicating and talking with the residents, which I really like. And our residents know the police officers, and a lot of them know them by name. So that's really, really important. And I think that's because we have a chief that made sure that happened. And he said something at the swearing in, if I can find it real quick. And he said, "We know what we're doing and we do it right." And that is so key because they've been trained right. And that's just very, very important. And I'm just appreciative of them for that. Also, my husband and I, yesterday, I hope I'm not stealing the mayor's thunder, I'll just be brief about it. We had an opportunity to go on the garden walk. And all I can say is it was very amazing. There are some hidden gems in our city. And there are people that have absolutely beautiful gardens, and they are a Better Homes and Garden magazine worthy. And I'll say that because I read that magazine and I'll look through all the beautiful things that are in there. And I would like to thank those people for allowing us to go in their backyards, to see the beautiful flower arrangements, the trees, just a peaceful garden, and they were very friendly. It was just a very nice time. And if you missed it, you got to get on it next year. It's a nice walk. It's a nice way to get to know your neighbors in your city, and also to learn about how to improve your own gardening. I think some of the husbands were kind of like, oh, okay, I got work to do, because their wives had all these ideas when they get back home, and the women have the ideas and the men do the work sometimes. So that was really funny, but it was very nice. And I'm just saying it because my husband does that too. Stop laughing, Charles. But anyway, it was just beautiful. You have to see the gardens. And if you know of someone that has a beautiful garden, it's not too late to nominate, is it, for the garden? You all should do that. Nominate your neighbors that have beautiful gardens. And it just helps in the neighborhood. It really does to see nice garden. You won't be the yard from Hades. But anyway, also want to thank Mike Mannion personally and Kim, I don't know how to say her last name, is it Ganja? Kim? Gaucher. Yeah, they are city employees and they work very hard, and I like the things that they are doing, And I didn't get a chance to openly say Mike Mannion's name. Mike has helped with a lot of things here in the city, even with the Friends. He has done a lot to help us, and just wanted to publicly say thank you to Mike Mannion and to Kim because of the hard work and the commitment they have to doing the work of the city, and I believe they go over and beyond the call of duty on that. So just wanted to publicly thank them. And I think that's all, and have a safe summer, and that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Brightwell?
I just have comments for veterans. And D-Day just brought a lot of memories back to me because I interviewed quite a few veterans who were in wartime. And gave me thought with respect to what they went through. Most human beings have not dealt with those tragedies, and they didn't have to go down the street picking up body parts. They didn't have to see their friends blown apart and all those kind of things. So, and I've learned just over the years dealing with veterans, that takes a toll. And I will be bringing this up frequently, that if you know a veteran who's in crisis, or someone who, or if you are concerned about a veteran, and the veteran, they don't have to be enrolled in the VA benefits or have health care contact with the VA, but if a veteran is in crisis or something's going on with them, tell them they can dial 988, and then you press 1. That is a secure line for veterans to discuss their current state of mind, what is bothering them. So I will do this periodically as frequently as I possibly can, because I know, as I've learned, that you might not be a veteran. Somebody knows a veteran, and so if you just pass their word on that there is help out there for the veterans, and it's just there's a price, there's a human cost to serving in the military and keeping America peaceful and keeping America at peace, because we know that if we did not have a military, different things would be happening here in the United States. So, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback off what Councilwoman Haynes mentioned about the police swearing in last week. It was very nice to have new officers. There was also some officers who were promoted within the ranks, and the city of Southfield is still currently looking for police officers. So if you know anyone who is looking to get into the law enforcement career or looking to make a career change, we're accepting applicants from other departments as well. Please see the city's website, and you can apply that way. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that with the July 4th holiday coming up next week, while we cannot stop you from shooting off fireworks due to state law, please be mindful of your neighbors, of pets, of different things, and try not to, we always know they look nicer when it's really dark outside, but please keep in mind the hours that you are permitted to shoot off fireworks, and be mindful if you really think it's necessary for those in your neighborhood that you will be disturbing. And please be safe with fireworks as well. We do not want our fire department to be busy attending to either fires or personal injury. So, with that, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'll pick up on 4th of July, the annual Magnolia Roseland Woods 4th of July parade and picnic will take place at 10 a.m. starting at Magnolia Center. That's 17050 Dorset, and will wind through Magnolia and Roseland Woods neighborhoods and end up at Brace Letterly's playfield. And it will be on the 4th of July, starting at 10. Picnic hosted by Roseland Woods behind Brace Letterly School. I also want to mention that again. My office has received many, many complaints in the last 2 or 3 weeks about trash collection, GFL. And we have a week to go, and we'll have a new contractor, Priority Waste, taking over. I would, if you are able to do this, I would hold on to yard waste and recycling until the new contractor, because right now everything is going in the same truck. And that was part of the complaints that I've received, plus a lot of missed yard waste pickup and other things that were not picked up. And then the other mention is that due to the storm, I did declare a state of emergency last Friday in the city of Southfield. There is no guarantee that any funding will come to this. It will depend on the governor's office. But as you heard earlier this evening, our Public Works crew racked up a great deal of overtime. And if we are able to get some emergency relief, it would reimburse the city for the costs. And obviously, we're not done. We're asking patience of residents on the pickup. Usually when things accumulate, especially at this time of year where debris is on the lawn, people like to see it removed. It's just going to take us a while for the wood chipping, so we're asking for patience. There's an awful lot of stuff that came down. I did drive through some of the neighborhoods, and to see these trees, these huge trees knocked over or torn in half, plus the number of houses that were hit with limbs. It's going to take a collective effort and everybody's patience. I am glad to know that all power has been restored in Southfield, especially with the continuing warm weather that we're experiencing. And again, this Sunday, the 30th, from 2 to 5 p.m., restoring or continuing generational wealth through home ownership. That seminar will take place at McKinley site, 18330 George Washington Avenue. And that's from 2 to 5 p.m. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Administrator?
Thank you. A lot's been said. I just want to thank my team, police, fire, Public Works, Parks and Rec, for coming together during the storm last Thursday. I worked out of the Public Works yard, and it was just crazy busy getting the agenda out, and then was over at our Career Center. Although the storm power was out at City Hall, and a lot of employees were still out in the field working. As the mayor just recently made reference to, we had Public Works folks working all weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and they'll continue. We had a couple of people work 24 hours, and we just finally said, you need to go home. Their dedication is to be applauded. Fire department, the number of down lines. At one point, I talked to Fire Chief Menifee. We had over 92 calls. And just, you're in that scramble emergency mode, and the city, we really shine at that. It's a position you don't want to be in, but police, fire, Public Works just do a great job. Parks and Rec, I talked to them the next day. They were inspected. Our code officers went out on the following day, and they all drove their districts and started building database of homes that, trees are down, tarps are on roofs. In sections 11, 12, and 13, the northeast corner of the city, the building department went through looking for structures that may not be safe. And, it's what cities have to do. And and I think the team did an excellent job. I appreciate the resources, the fact that I was able to work at Public Works and had full electricity, computers worked. That's important, and we're going to continue to do a review of what we need to do to increase our backup generator capabilities within the organization. And I think the biggest challenge for us that is we weren't able to provide a cooling center during that event because we were without power at both Beechwood and the municipal campus. And staff, we're talking about that, and we want to figure out how we address that. So thank you for the support of council and helping us get through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Attorney?
Good evening, council. I have two ordinances to introduce before you this evening. The first one is the Wellspring pilot ordinance, as we had discussed at the Committee of the Whole on June 17th. There was a consensus to bring it forward. So what I'm recommending for council tonight is that you approve the ordinance as presented, and that also we be able to introduce ordinance 1789. If you have any questions, I know we had discussed it, but this is the payment in lieu of taxes, and we talked about the annual rent for the housing development. But Mr. requires this ordinance.
Councilman Hicks?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we introduce ordinance number 1789, Mr. Payment in lieu of taxes, Wellspring.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, to introduce ordinance number 1789, the MISHDA payment in lieu of taxes for the Wellspring project. Any questions from or discussion from council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, council. And the second one is a previous pilot ordinance that had already been approved, enacted, and published by council in 2022 for the John Grace Arms. In that ordinance, there was a legal description that needed to be changed, so that is the only thing that's changing for this ordinance. We removed the park area that was part of the legal description when the ordinance was initially approved by council. So my request tonight is that council approve the amendment to the previous ordinance, and that we also introduce ordinance 1790.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that we introduce ordinance number 1790, amendment of ordinance establishing a pilot for John Grace Arms.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilwoman Hoag, supported by Councilman Brightwell, to introduce ordinance number 1790, an amendment of the ordinance establishing a pilot payment in lieu of taxes for the John Grace Arms project. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, council. I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to quickly just remind the public, because the weather is heated up and we have people coming door to door that want to do home improvements and other things to your property. We have a formal solicitation, permit, and license within this city that these type of people that come to engage you and try to sell you things in person at your home should possess upon their person. We know it's not a good day or time really to engage anyone without proper credentials. So just to let you know, if someone's coming by, talking to you about things, landscaping, whatever, ask if they have a solicitation license. That's an extra layer of protection for you as a homeowner. And then August the 6th, we know our primary election is coming up, and this election is going to decide county races, judicial races, and potentially even a national race. So because we are a very highly democratic, composed community, make sure that you vote, because this may be your time to make the decision that you're going to have to live with, and the person who's going to be the representative of your values. So that's all I have for today. If you want to get any information about the status of your voting application ballot, just contact the city clerk's office at 248-796-5150. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing nothing else to come before the council, the meeting is adjourned.